Hello, my fellow three-decker sauerkraut and toadstool sandwiches. I'm Mr. Church. Now, I have been doing a special character builds. We've done a bash damage only, we did a vampire, and we even did the Son of God. And today, we're going to be hauling out the holly with a Santa fucking Claus. In this video, I'm going to be showcasing the build, showing the armor, perks, weapons, and going over the pros and cons. It's mostly cons. Let's get into it. So the weapons I'm going to be using for this build is the Cryolator. Two different kinds. This one, importantly, has the crystallizing barrel and is Gormons. The crystallizing barrel makes you shoot snowballs. I thought that would be very festive. And the Gormons is because we're going to be an Overeater's build. This is the other one I'm using. It is anti-armor with faster fire rate, and I just have it standard, so it kind of shoots like a flamer in a way, which I'll show footage of later. And as I said, I'm using Overeater's armor. This decreases, increases damage reduction up to 6% as you feel your hunger and thirst. So we're going to be eating a lot of snacks, cookies, milk. And 6%, that doesn't sound like a lot, but if you have 5 pieces, of course, that's 30% damage reduction. And that is much better than damage resistance on armor because there's kind of a soft cap on damage resistance. As you increase it, you get diminishing returns. And what that means is it's better to get damage mitigation in other means. So we're going to be using special strength, agility, intelligence, endurance, not electric absorption. I have other builds on this character, so don't worry about that. You're not gonna need this. But, if I were to fill something in there instead of that, for this build, I'd probably put sizzling style, just because fire damage does a lot now that they've fixed fireproof, so it doesn't, you actually take damage from fire. What Rads is the most powerful OP legendary perk for high health builds, keeping you at high health all the time, like with healing factor especially. Your health is always at 100% without having to do anything. So looking at the build, we have Traveling Pharmacy because I have a lot of aid from other builds, but we're not actually going to be using aid to heal ourselves. Bare arms, heavy weapons are heavy. Master Heavy Gunner, and Heavy Gunner and Expert Heavy Gunner, and I'm using 2 stars of each instead of doing 3 and 3, and that's because if you don't have enough to do all 9 of a damage perk card, it's better to have as many different cards as possible because of how the math works out. If you have 2, 2, and 2, you actually have 15% times 3, which is 45. If you have 3 and 3, that's just 20% times 2, which is 40, so you get 5% more damage just by doing that. Lock and load actually does make a difference to your weapon. I have footage of, on the right, you're going to see the without it, and on the left with it. It's way faster, and that's super fast. So pick lock, this is just so that I can break and enter people's homes on the holidays. Very important for getting those gifts beneath the Christmas tree. You don't have to worry about anything untoward. This is Santa's job. And in fact, some people are worried that, it's encouraging dishonest behavior. And I argue that it's not, because everyone expects you to come. They just forget to unlock the door for you. So this is important, and I wouldn't worry about the bounty that's on my head. Also, Night Person. This one gives me 3 perception at night because I do see you when you're sleeping. And I know when you're awake as well. You're watching this video, I hope that you're awake. But not for long, maybe. And I was also going to run Night Person as an additional see you when you're sleeping joke. Haha. We don't need to double down on that. But also, the issue with that is Night Eyes actually, it kind of sucks. Like, this is what it does. See the vignette, I think that's how you say it, of blurriness and shit. So it actually makes it harder to see at night instead of easier. Now, before they destroyed the lighting in the game and they made it horrifically bright, that was probably helpful, when it was actually dark at night, for it to be a little bit lighter. But I don't want to run it because that's terrible. So instead of running Night Eyes, I decided I'm going to be running Grenadier. I think is how you say it. Now, this actually does work with the crystallizing barrel and the Cryolator because the snowball is effectively an explosive. Who knew, you know? I decided I would shoot this wall with a snowball, see how big the snowball is. It's kind of, you can't see it. There it is. It's little, you know? It's like the size of a golf ball. And so does Grenadier make that bigger somehow? So I decided, you know, let's really quickly equip it. It's faster than the speed of light. Now it's like the size of a baseball. See, that definitely makes the snowball bigger. And if, you know, maybe it doesn't really matter when you're actually using it in terms of like doing more damage and stuff, but for the funny effect, I think it's worth having. For this build, we're going to be running slow metabolizer, and we're also going to be running dromedary. These satisfy hunger by 75% and thirst by 75% when you have food. By the way, a dromedary is a camel that is not Quasimodo. I didn't know that, and so I looked it up. Now, all night long is so that hunger and thirst grows slower at night. That's when we're going to be busting our balls, giving the gifts for the fucking children. So it's good if we don't get too hungry. So that's going to reduce that. Now, if you're running overeaters and gourmands, you're going to want to be well-fed and well-watered as much as you can. This will help you stay that way. Nocturnal Fortitude gives you 40 maximum health at night. We're going to need extra health in case we try to give... Anyway, you gain much benefit from being fully fed and fully hydrated. If you want to know what that increased benefits is, because it doesn't fucking say... Now, in your Pip-Boy, you can see when you're fully fed and fully hydrated, you get AP regen plus 45, maximum HP 45. That's with it on. If you take it off, that number drops down to 35, so max 35 HP and plus 35% AP regen. So it's good to have. It bumps your AP regen up, which is something important, because... my Overeater's armor does not have AP regen on it. I think only one piece does. And we're going to be using VATS a lot with a crystallizing barrel. Otherwise, we won't be hitting any shots. I didn't have a stroke there. Something got stuck. Sometimes things get stuck when you're trying to say stuff. Okay, let's move on. Moving into Charisma, we're going to be running Happy Camper so that our hunger and thirst grows 80% slower when we are at a camp or at our workshop building toys for those children that we talked about. So this is mostly if you're sitting around at your camp, getting your stuff together, you're basically not running down your hunger and thirst. You probably won't be spending most of your time here if you're actually combating. Strange in numbers, you want that on every build. Animal Friend is important because, you know, Rudolph with your nose so bright is never going to guide your sleigh at night unless you can approach it with peace. So you're going to want to be able to pacify the reindeer, even if they have 2 heads, 1 head. It doesn't really matter. And let's stop talking about head. Instead, let's go up to this reindeer and invite him to please guide our sleigh through the snow. In fact, it's very important to remember this holiday season. It's okay to be different as long as you can be exploited for that difference. So just keep that in mind. It's okay to be different as long as you have value to the corporate community. Now, Travel Agent is going to help us fast travel around to many camps, giving them gifts of fertilizer and other special things for way cheaper. And I'm looking at it again for no reason. Party Boy, this will triple the positive effects of pre-war alcohol, which I've mentioned in previous videos. How it affects Sweetwater Special Blend, but I'll cover it quickly later when we're going over food buffs. Batteries included. We have Cryolator cells, cryo cells, or whatever, so they're pretty heavy. This reduces the weight of those. And then the next one, Demo Expert, because the crystallizing blob of snowball is an explosive, I wanted to make sure that this actually affected that damage. So I went to the unsuspecting men and women at Radiation Rumble. Now when I shoot them, you can see there's 2 numbers. There's 2 42s on top of each other. One is the impact damage and the other one is the explosive damage. 42, by the way, is the answer to life and the universe and everything. That's without Demo Expert. So if I put that on, again, 60% damage. Equipped. Now remember, it was 42 and 42 were the 2 numbers that we got. Now we have 67 and 42. It's hard to read them because they're superimposed, because they're hitting in almost the exact same spot. Normally, when you have an explosive, it kind of sprays more everywhere, but this one, there's just that one. So it does buff the second damage number, but not the first. So the impact damage is still 42, or whatever it is for you, depending on what your build is, and then that will buff the impact damage or the explosive damage by 60%. So it does make you do more damage. Is that worth 5 points of demo expert? Probably not. Okay, but this is for Santa, so let's get off my back about it. Okay. Into agility, we have through hiker, because we're a food build. Literally a food build. So you're gonna be wanting to reduce the weight of that shit as much as you can. Now, the Cryolator you can actually sneak with, so I'm going to use Escape Artist and Sneak for sketchy situations where I do want to use stealth. Most of the time I won't bother, because I'm a holly jolly man, and I'm just going to be swaggering about. Goat legs is important in case you fall from the roof. Sometimes those are pretty slippery. People are switching over to more steel roofs, metal roofs, and those are way slipperier with the snow on them. Be careful out there, old man. One gun army actually, it's only 12% chance to cripple a limb, but I noticed against some enemies it does seem to pretty much always work. And that's really handy in case you're getting kind of rushed in a situation where you're probably, just trying to mind your own business. What am I doing here? Doesn't matter why I'm at this camp, okay? But the important thing is, you're impervious to getting fucked if you can make someone fall down and lay on the ground. It's also great for, chilling with your foes. And I want to encourage, the love and joy that this holiday season brings. So I just want to say, yes, it's good to run this perk, but it doesn't work. It doesn't seem to work on everything. But when it matters, and I want you to remember to use this responsibly, okay? Because now's not the time to be a bitch, okay? He sees you when you're sleeping, so let's stay off the naughty list, right? And so it's fine. Don't worry about it, okay? Don't worry about it. We're also going to be running Class Freak to negate negative effects. I'm going to look at that in more detail later because I think something's bugged. Starch genes so that we don't get mutations we don't want or lose them. By the way, these are the mutations I'm running. The important ones are Eagle Eyes, Herbivore, Healing Factor, Herd Mentality, which works even if you're alone on a public team, Marsupial, of course, and Speed Demon, I think, is bugged because you'll notice everything else has the reduced amount from Class Freak. If you look down there, very small font, 50% hunger and thirst while moving. That's the full effect of Speed Demon. That's the full negative effect. When I take Class Freak off, you'll see in here, it still says 50%. Those are all upped, -4, -4, -3, whatever, -55%. Those are all upped. But this still says plus 50% hunger and thirst while moving, which is a negative effect. And Class Freak is supposed to reduce that by 75%. So that should not be 50% still, but it still is. So I don't know if that's a visual thing or if you always are getting that drain with Speed Demon on. But regardless, maybe don't use it. Curator, we're going to be running Live and Love 3 so that our food buffs are more effective, essentially. And lastly, good with salt so that all our food buffs don't go bad while we're carrying them around. And by the way, let's talk about the food that I'll be using. So first of all, birthday cake is very important for Santa. I just kind of wanted something that was a sweet and that gave me a good amount of HP. Unfortunately, because I was originally going to use cookies and milk, which didn't really seem to work out very well. Because the mud cookie only gives you 25 HP, and it's pretty bad food percentage, 17%. That's with slow metabolizer on. And Brahmin milk only gives you 15% water, and that's with dromedary on. So the cookies and milk thing, funny, but it really is terrible, even when you buff them to the most they can be buffed. And I don't think that Brahmin milk is affected by herbivore or carnivore. It's kind of like this middle ground. So that's unfortunate. We're going to be using company tea. Now, company tea is really good, especially with the new thing that we can get it now for free. It's one of the best buffs in the game. It gives you a massive AP regen. That's 25. And when you take Live and Love 3, that buffs that even higher. So Live and Love 3 gives 50% healing, but it's also plus 50% buffs of that food. So now it's 38% AP regen. And I want to show you side by side what that looks like. That's a massive difference of your AP regen speed. All that is the one with the company tea and one without. Dromedary and slow metabolizer does not seem to affect the buffs of that, but it does give you more water percent. And something hilarious I noticed is Sweetwater Special Blend with that has 131% water because we have the buff of Herbivore, we have the buff of the Live and Love 3, we have Party Boy, and we have Dromedary. But I want to also mention, if you really want to do this build for real, Perfect Bubblegum, you don't take hunger for an hour. Plus, if you have Dromedary and the other thing, gives you 175% food and water, which you really don't need. That is the only thing in the game that makes you absolutely not have any hunger and thirst for any period of time. Other bubblegum just reduces hunger and thirst by a measly 5% for only 2 minutes, which is horrific. Perfect Bubblegum is amazing for this specifically. It fills your hunger and thirst bars, and it's usually a freebie in the item shop or on the scoreboard. Now, you can buy it from the item shop. It's like, what is it? It's still loading. Hello? Guys? Oh, good, thanks. So I think it would probably be in utility. Yeah, so you can buy 15 for 500 atoms. I don't recommend buying Perfect Bubblegum from the item shop, but it's there. It's an option if you want Perfect Bubblegum for your build. I want to mention very quickly, though, the Gourmand's effect is shit. It's plus 24% damage, which is horrific when you consider that Aristocrats is plus 50% damage. So I don't know if they're ever going to buff that, but it's pretty bad either way. So obviously, don't spend money on Perfect Bubblegum, especially with Gourmands being such a trash effect. It's funny for Santa, but as an actual build, unfortunately, I wouldn't recommend it. It's not viable. Some things that I did notice that I enjoyed is this is pretty powerful against squishy stuff. Unfortunately, bigger stuff, it is a little bit more of a struggle. I noticed with the snowballs, it does give that freezing effect that the Cryolator gives, but because it's such a slower rate of fire, it takes longer for it to be fully frozen. Like, he's still coming at me. If I switch to the misty one, he immediately freezes. So I like having the mist one is like a blizzard, snowy blowing shit. In case the big monsters attack us. I like how it has the speedy animation in slow motion. I think that's pretty funny. Yes, in this, yeah, okay, listen. It took an hour and a half, and I don't really want you to worry your little heads about it, because the important thing is that Santa was safe. He didn't get hurt in this interaction. I did keep trying to VATS him, which was a mistake. I don't have the AP for that. And I should have just free aimed him. It would have done more damage. But listen, at the end of the day, okay, listen, this isn't a great. Like I said, Gourmands is terrible. That's why I'm using the anti-armor for most of this. But the snowballs are hilarious. It would be better if you did like a tube shot, because I believe the projectile will do even probably. I think that's the most damage you can get in this situation. But yeah, it's pretty terrible. Okay, listen. But Santa's not supposed to be killing stuff. He's bringing joy to the children. So I don't know why you guys are like judging how bad. Listen, it's for what it's worth. It's okay, you know, and I mean, I can kill these super mutants with it, right? But the AP regen from that Company T is really helpful, especially if you're going to be vatsing a lot. One thing I did notice was, because I'm not using any adamantium skeleton and I'm using cake to heal myself, I do get limb damage a lot, and I can't heal it, really. I have to kind of wait till the enemies are dead and healing factor kicks in. And that's fine, but it's not ideal. But it's a thing. And rival Santas are not to be matched. I've been having a lot of fun doing this series. If you guys have any ideas for fun character builds to try out, let me know in the comments. And let me know what your favorite has been so far of the series. I want to give a big shout out and thank you to my patrons and channel members for your support. I really do appreciate that. If you guys are not in the Discord, jump in the Discord. It's a great place, great community. Also, I stream on Twitch, and I will see you guys in the next video.